Welcome to this video on FlowStudio's MCP Server. This is truly an exciting Just Ask approach. My name is Audrie Gordon. I'm an AI champion with learning Compass.AI. Now, what do I mean by Just Ask? What I mean is this is a whole new way of working with your automation. And this is designed, this MCP server is fully designed by the FlowStudio team, who historically has been a big advocate for clear visibility in managing your automations. They took all the expertise that they've learned from their customers and from the product itself to build an MCP server that lets you just ask. Just ask to discover what's in every environment. For instance, let's say you want to build a new process flow for all requests for books. It might be a good idea to ask if that already exists, so you're not redundantly building a new automation for something that's already out there. So you can just ask, are there any flows in our environment that cover this topic? Or even better, you can just describe what you want the automation to do. So you've found that there are no automations around book loans. And so now you can just say, create this particular process automation so that people can order those books and get responses back, and somebody can know about the orders that have been made, etc. You just speak in natural language of what you want to do, and then the flow can be built for you. Thirdly, this is great for understanding your automation better. Have you ever inherited a flow because somebody left the company or because somebody actually needs your help? You can just ask that the MCP server tell you about that flow, what the dependencies are. I'm going to take a peek at a prompt that's perfect for that I actually think should be kind of a forced best practice. Always try to understand the automation before you want to edit it. Finally, all of this works within guardrails that are already there in the Microsoft environment through Entra credentials. Everyone is still working within the permissions that they have. Nobody gets any extra permissions added by this MCP server, so it's important to maintain whatever policies and compliance you have in place for permission management. So what we're going to do over the next 3 videos, so I'm going to be taking a little journey with you across the next 3 videos today, and then in the next few business days, you'll have 3 problems, 3 prompts, and you'll see why just asking is a game changer. The next 3 15-minute videos respond to a real business situation each. In the first one today, we're going to build with intent. We know the outcome. We don't want to design the click path. We just want to get it done. Secondly, we're going to diagnose a fail run. So something broke. Show me the evidence before we change anything. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about inventory and govern. We're going to find across an entire tenant which 5 flows deserve my attention first. Okay, so let's get started. In this very first prompt, we're going to talk about describing the outcome and how that changes the game when you choose to use the FlowStudio MCP server. All right, let's look at the scenario. I have a business problem. I do not want to spend 45 minutes dragging boxes around. I want the overdue work surfaced automatically. Okay? It's Friday morning. My team has overdue issues scattered across SharePoint, and somebody is manually chasing them every week. So I choose to use my FlowStudio MCP server to write this prompt. Build a scheduled cloud flow named pending issues and then you say which environment you want it in. Run it every Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific and read the issue tracker SharePoint list. Find only items where status is not completed and due date is earlier than today. Filter at the source, not inside a loop. Calculate total overdue, oldest item age, and top owner. Email, and I give it an alias, a concise Friday trouble report, followed by overdue tasks groups by owner. Create the flow turned off so I can inspect it first. So that is a single pass natural language prompt. And we get great value out of that one single pass prompt. We get intent, not click-throughs. We get best practice by default, okay? We're trying to avoid loops, unnecessary loops, right? And finally, we're going to review this in a turned off state before we actually run it. Okay, so in fact, the agent chooses the actions and writes the filtering logic. So MCP saved me from designing actions, writing OData, building loops, manually formatting the summary. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is demo this before we finish this video. But I want you to think about, right? Think about the problem statement and how you would handle this if you didn't have the FlowStudio MCP server. All right, I'll be right back. Let's start by looking at the SharePoint lists where we're tracking all the things that's pending to happen here. So we have an issue tracker, and if you want to build it in your own tenant, just use the issue tracker template and fill it with some sample data. The only difference I did is I added an owner column instead of using the assigned to, just so I could have different names because I don't have enough fake names in my tenant. So if you were building a flow from scratch, you would either loop through this, which would not be the best practice, or you would create an OData filter. And if you were going to do this in Power Automate and you wanted to do a due date, you'd have to do a little bit of an expression to calculate whether the date is earlier than today. But just ask approach changes the game. All right. So now we're going to look at our Power Automate environment. Today, I'm going to work in an environment called Copilot Experiences. It's like a dev environment for me. And right now you can see it only has one cloud flow in it. But one thing I do suggest you take a peek at before you start playing around is your connections. So just from Power Automate, I'm going to go to connections and I'm going to go to more and make sure I have a few connections, that kind of I need for most operations. And if you want to take these as kind of like the 4 I always keep active, it's Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, and Office 365 users in case I need to look up profile information. But keeping these connected will make it easier for everything to kind of work well on the first run. These are just little tips I'm giving you. Check that the environment you're working in is a dev environment. You don't want to be editing and creating in prod. And then you want to keep in mind what the name of that environment is, just to be more direct with your prompts. And then check that you have connections already. And remember, if you don't have connections here, when you click that, you can just click new connection and then look at all the ones that are available. There's a whole bunch, but just search for what you want. And then you can create a new connection. You can create multiple connections of the same connector. Okay, that's okay. And we now allow you to kind of name those connections. All right. So all is that's kind of like thinking ahead. Where's your SharePoint list? Then, because it will find the list even if you don't give it a URL, but I like to. And then make sure your environment is the right one and it has the connections that are needed there. Okay, so now we're ready to work. Now today I'm going to do this in ChatGPT, but where you do this is really up to you. It's wherever your agent is. I will give you the link to the site where you can learn how to install it in ChatGPT, in Claude, in Cowork. And you can even do the same thing that you do here in Copilot Studio to add it there. So this first video, I'm going to use ChatGPT. The second one, I will use Claude, and the last one, I will use Copilot Studio. That way you see it working in all three. Okay, but you could even have your own coded agent that you add this to. All right, so I've already done the setup instructions from the website of FlowStudio, and now I'm going to hit this plus sign because I'm in chat, but I'm in a regular chat. I'm not in a special agent. I'm just in a regular chat. And so I just want to give the chat the capability to talk to the MCP server. And I'm going to just go ahead and add that. And now I can paste my prompt in there, right? So my prompt is build a scheduled flow named pending issues in the Copilot experiences environment. Run it every Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific and read the issue tracker SharePoint. Find only items where status is not completed and due date is earlier than today. Filter at the source, not inside a loop. Calculate total overdue, oldest item age, and top owner. Email a concise Friday, I'm just going to say issues report, followed by overdue tasks grouped by owner. Create the flow turned off so I can expect it first. So you see how much is wrapped into this single prompt? There's a lot, right? So whenever I do brackets like that, it's just to remind me that I should replace what's inside the bracket with the real story. I think I did copy. No, I didn't yet. I'm going to copy the SharePoint list URL just to make it easier. So what your MCP server does in the back end can be affected or impacted by what you put in the prompt, right? Yes, it can find this SharePoint list on its own, but that means it's going to be doing more in the back end to find the list. So sometimes I try to save it some steps by giving it additional detail, even if it doesn't need it, right? It just helps to zoom in on what you're looking for. All right. And what I'm most happy about is I'm just describing my intent. This is the outcome I want. This Friday issues report followed by this owner overdue task group by owner. This is going to help me chase things a little bit easier every Friday. All right. Before I enjoy my weekend. All right. So we're just going to send that prompt. And basically you'll be able to watch it thinking over this. Now I might do some speed ups, right? So I'm not to make you not have to stare at my screen the whole time, but occasionally I'll come back and let you see it thinking. So anything you see gray like this, this is all it thinking. So you get to watch the plugin. In this case, I'm in ChatGPT. This has been added as a custom plugin. The plugin is busy thinking, and so we know that's the MCP server working. We know a tool is being called. We can open up these thinking areas and see more, by the way. That gives us even more detail. All right, but you don't have to sit and watch this. You can go get a cup of tea, cup of coffee. You can call your mom. You can do whatever you'd like to do because it will take maybe a minute or two to finish all of its tasks. But I'd like you to know that you can watch and you can learn from what it's doing. Okay, so be right back with the next step. Notice it's now refining filter logic. So those of you that may have had struggles with understanding how to format OData filters, this is being done for you. All right, and then it tells us that it's confirming the schema. It's seeing the internal names of the columns. Any of us that's worked in SharePoint and automation in our lives, we know we cannot trust what we see on the screen in SharePoint because automation is looking at the internal name of the column, right? And I have shown you in my own videos in the past how to find that internal name, but guess what? Don't worry about it. It will find the internal names and it will build this scenario without you having to explain. All right. Now I forgot to give it an alias. All right. So sometimes you'll forget to do something. That is perfectly okay. All right. So basically since it's already connected to my inbox, it's going to use that. All right. because I didn't give it an alias. Okay, so it's going to leave the flow stopped anyway because we asked it to. All right. So you can see all the times it called the tools, what it did in those tools, really easy. All right. So then we get questions sometimes. Allow ChatGPT to use this, right? Because we have to update a flow called pending issues, right? So we just can allow once, or we can deny it. We can say, no, don't do that. So you see the feel of like co-work. By the way, you can also add this to co-work as long as your admin has enabled that. And again, the instructions for how to install this and everything takes like 5 minutes, but you just follow the instructions on the website. All right. Now come back in. Okay, looks like it's almost done. Okay, it is done. Pending issues is now created and is turned off for inspection. It runs every Friday at 7 a.m. Queries the SharePoint issue tracker directly with source level filter, status not equal completed, and due date less than today, and then computes total overdue, oldest item age, and top owner. The email is grouped by owner with a concise Friday issues report summary first. One small substitution, alias, is not a valid Outlook route recipient. So I used my my old email, because that's the tenant I'm in right now. It's connected to Mailbox. So Power Automate would validate and save the flow. So it had to just put a placeholder. So it used my own, which makes total sense. And the flow is in a current state of stop. If we go over to Power Automate here and we go back to my flows in that environment, you'll see the new flow is there. It is stopped, right? It is, you can see it's grayed out. It is a scheduled trigger, right? Let's take a look at it. We've got a filter for overdue issues. And here we've got our filter query with a date format expression that we didn't have to worry about, right? We got the initialized current owner, initialized current owner count, initialized top owner. And these initialized are all for the things I've asked it to count and to calculate. And then it's going to do everything it needs to do to find out what it needs to report back. All of this, it's done for me, okay? And then after it gets all that done, it's going to compose all the figures that it needs to put into the email to report back. So the compose holds those variables calculated, and then it's going to send that email. And again, it told me that it's sending it to me, and I think I'm fine with that. And so I'm just going to hit save, and I will go ahead and turn it on. So it left it off for me, but I want you to see the result. So I'm going to actually turn it on and give it a test. So I'm going to turn it on. And then after I turn it on, I'm going to test it. All right, so I'm forcing this to run now. And you can see that it is running now. Okay, that's me forcing it to run. Otherwise, it would wait till Friday, the next Friday after today. All right. And so since it's only going to me, I can do that. But here's the advantage of that being off. You don't have a risk. If that email was going to your entire leadership team, you don't have a risk of accidentally spamming them all while you're troubleshooting, right? So you turn it off, and that's a safety guardrail, right? Like you just don't want it to run without you deciding it should run and making sure that the right people are not spammed. Okay. So basically to see if it succeeds, which it did, and then we'll go to email and look at it. We can see total overdue is 7. Oldest item age is 23 days. Top owner is Jordan Kim with 2 overdue items. And then you have each set of people who have overdue items, because that's the point of this. We're trying to trap these overdue issues, which should have been done already. So I hope you can see the high value of that. I mean, immediately I just feel just ask is a game changer. And if we can just ask even to build a flow, What else can we do? In the next video, we're going to talk about how to diagnose a flow that has a failure, figure out exactly what evidence we have to prove what is the cause of that failure, and how to fix it. So look for that in the next video. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so that you won't miss that video when it comes out. Thank you so much for watching today.